People are generally afraid of large predators, but this creature hiding in the rocky terrain of Oklahoma proves that what really matters isn't size, but impact. And at night, spotting this tiny creature can be much harder than you might think. Moreover, this scorpion's body can suddenly begin to glow in bright shades of green and blue when exposed to a certain light in the dark. And we'll see exactly why this happens in the coming sections of the video. At first glance, it may appear to be an ordinary, defenseless little creature crawling across dry soil. However, the methods it has developed to survive transform it into a far more effective creature than you might imagine. Active primarily at night, this creature often moves without being noticed. Meet the master of invisibility and silence, the striped shell scorpion. It is one of the most common scorpion species that has managed to survive in the harsh climate of the southwestern United States, particularly in Oklahoma. Its average size ranges from just 2 to 3 inches. Its appearance features pale yellow and light brown tones. The 2 dark stripes running along its back are the most distinctive feature that gives it its name. The most interesting feature of this species is that, unlike other scorpion species, it does not dig long tunnels or burrows deep into the ground. It has a very different strategy. As its name suggests, it prefers to climb. Thanks to the special structure of its legs, a gift from nature, it can move comfortably even on surfaces where most creatures cannot grip. The spaces between tree bark, the inner parts of dried logs, and the steep surfaces of rocks serve as perfect shelters for it. What's interesting is that the striped bark scorpion is no longer found exclusively in its natural habitats. Studies indicate that it has established populations outside the arid regions of Oklahoma and its surroundings. Researchers believe this may be due to human activity. In particular, transported wood, shipping containers, and construction materials may have inadvertently carried it to different regions. For this reason, it is occasionally spotted in human living areas as well. Seeking shelter from the daytime heat, this creature can choose any cool, dark spot it finds as a safe hiding place. Sometimes, these choices might even be our homes. But what if you unexpectedly encounter one at night? According to experts, the striped scorpion's venom generally does not pose a life-threatening risk to a healthy adult. However, upon being stung, one may feel a sudden, sharp pain that many people compare to a bee or wasp sting. Now let's talk about the most important defense it carries in its tail. The striped shell scorpion's venom has evolved to quickly paralyze the nervous systems of small insects. But what's interesting is that this little creature doesn't waste its venom unnecessarily. That's because producing this toxic substance requires a significant amount of energy for it. That's why, when the scorpion senses a threat, it usually prefers to hide and flee first. Let's take a closer look at how this creature hunts. It generally prefers to hunt at night. It mostly feeds on insects, spiders, and other small arthropods. When it gets close enough to its prey, it first tries to pin it down with its pincers. If the prey is still resisting, it uses the venom in its tail. However, the interesting thing is that it doesn't use its venom on every prey. As I mentioned earlier, there's a cost to that. One of this creature's most fascinating traits is the impressive ability it uses while hunting. It can locate prey by sensing vibrations in its surroundings. Most of the time, it doesn't need to see its prey. Thanks to the small sensory hairs on its legs and sensitive sensory areas, It can detect even the slightest movements on rocks and dry soil. Oklahoma's dry, hard ground, in particular, helps these vibrations travel more easily. The scorpion usually waits motionless, listening to its surroundings. And when the right moment comes, it moves quickly, making almost no sound. That's why it's quite difficult to spot it at night, because most of the time it senses you first. But no matter how careful and quiet it moves, it remains a small target for larger predators in nature. Owls, certain nocturnal mammals, and grasshoppers are among the species capable of hunting this small scorpion. In fact, one of the interesting things about the striped ground scorpion is that it can exhibit partial resistance to the venom of certain scorpion species. Therefore, a defense mechanism that could be dangerous for most creatures may not always be sufficient for it. That's why the striped shell scorpion doesn't just search for prey all night long. It also carefully monitors every vibration on the dry ground, trying to avoid creatures that might hunt it. This creature has an even more fascinating trait that emerges once darkness falls: the glow we saw at the beginning of the video. A special protein layer in their exoskeletons absorbs and reflects UV rays. Scientists have not yet fully unraveled the reason behind this biological marvel. Some believe it serves as a trap to attract insects, while others think it functions as a light sensor that detects moonlight to determine when to emerge at night. This phenomenon is not yet visible in individuals that have recently molted. This is because the outer layer that creates that neon appearance begins to harden and form over time. However, this silent hunter's life is not solely about the struggle for survival. The female striped carapace scorpion does not abandon her young after they are born. The tiny, delicate young are carried on their mother's back until they undergo their first molt. Throughout this process, the mother scorpion tries to protect them from external threats. Once the young's exoskeletons harden and they are able to move on their own, they gradually begin to separate from their mother's back. For this small creature living in a harsh, arid environment, the first days of life are entirely dependent on the mother's protection. Despite its small size, the striped shell scorpion, which has survived in Oklahoma's rugged wilderness for millions of years, proves that sometimes the most effective creatures in nature are the quietest ones. Do you think it might be one of nature's most fascinating creatures? Our next destination is Alaska. We'll take a closer look at a massive creature living among icy rivers and mist-shrouded forests. What do you think this creature is? I'm looking forward to your guesses. See you in the next video.